here, and that's why I try to keep this right in front of me. So, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Welcome to Live at 5. We are going to take a few minutes and just have people come on. So in the comments, let us know you're here. So we are going to just take a couple minutes to let people hop on and have that change everything to the public thing. So and then we'll introduce everybody here. So good evening. Good evening. Veronica was on the last time that we had last Thursday. And so we talked about some self-worth. And so we're going to be having another conversation. I'm not for sure what night, but soon. About our faith. But yeah, so if you guys are on, come on and put in the comments, let me know that you're here. We're going to give us just a couple minutes before we start, because I know it takes a hot minute for everybody to jump on, and then we'll go from there. So we will go. Now we should do the countdown, right? So actually, let's do that. We're going to put a countdown in here so everybody can be jumping on and do. Then we will start. So. If I can find it now. Maybe not. Maybe I'm fibbing too. Maybe we can't do that. So doesn't look like we can do that. Hi, Westa. It's nice having you here, honey. All of the voices have to be off, guys, in the room. So, all right, if you're here, say hello. Nice having you here, honey. I'm trying. Just set the volume off on it all together.
Okay, but cancel it out and word it.
Okay. All right.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. All right. So, are you ready?
I am.
Awesome. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to Alive in 25. I am Pastor Deb, and tonight I'm so excited because we have Miss Sonja here with us. And you can see at the bottom of all the little letters after her name. So tell me what all of those mean.
Okay, so recently in February of last year, I acquired my master's in nursing with an emphasis in education. And I also have my bachelor's of science, so that's the BSN. And I'm a registered nurse as well as mom of teens.
I love the mott.
Yes, as of Thursday, it'll be 3 out of 4 of mine are teens.
We were just talking about that today. So, 3 teens. She's an experienced mom of teens. So, as we talk tonight, hi Roseanne, hi Marion. It's nice having you here. So as we go on tonight and talk a little bit. We want to talk about the effects of mental health on our youth. And that's why I asked you here tonight, because you not only have your own kids, but you also have the kids in the school districts and the kids around you. And with your experience and your education, we're hoping that maybe you could give us a little bit of advice. And so we pulled up some statistics, and this just blew me away. And it said that this was from the Newport Academy. It's about how you know when your teens need help.
Yeah.
So I'll share some of them, but where are you at with where our kids are?
Mental health is a huge need in our area amongst our teens, and it's one of probably the most needed attentions in school, at homes, for us to be aware of what to look for, how to help gain those resources and build on resources so that we can offer help when it's needed.
So have you seen, how long have you been a school nurse?
9 years.
9 years, congratulations, that's awesome. So over that 9 years, you didn't have teenagers then?
No.
So you've kind of not only warped into the mom role of teenagers, but also the school role.
Right.
So are you a school nurse for the K through 12?
Early childhood. So we have an early childhood program. So 3 all the way up to 18.
Okay.
So the entire district.
So, and just in your district, I know when you're speaking of that, but I think that's probably pretty general.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing? What are some of the things that you're seeing?
everybody's different. Each teen is different. It can be, you have those teens that you see walking in the hall and you can recognize some of the signs, and then you have those teens that you learn something about them, or you see something that's concerning and it blows your mind, because each of them are different, and I don't really feel like there's a textbook. It's the kids that you think have it all together, and it's the kids that don't appear that they have everything together. So it really crosses the whole board as far as affecting their youth, and the way that they demonstrate it, and the way they reach out and also kind of cry for help. So
Right. So some of the statistics that I found, and I thought that this was just interesting, 87% of the Gen Z youth, which is our 20s and under, they struggle with mental health on a regular basis. Yeah, not just sometimes, on a regular basis, 87%. And we always talk about adults, and we're depressed, we have anxiety, we have whatever, but we are also seeing little kids.
Yeah,
it is not when we have some of the kids that are kind of dubbed as the naughty kids, and really they're just screaming for help.
Right.
Am I reading that right?
Absolutely. A lot of our, especially younger kids, well, and all the way across the board, they're on, depending upon their home life and that, some of them are on survival, where they're not worried about the pencils or the pens that they don't have for school, but they're just worried about, making it through another day. Where's their next meal coming from? Who's going to be home with them at night? Is anybody going to be home? So there's all sorts of stressors and worries that they have that, we see it in a very superficial layer. Well, they have dirty clothes, or they don't have this, but they're not even worried about that. They're worried about, how am I going to get through today? And that puts a lot of stressors on them. And I think we're seeing it a lot younger, all the way across the board. And it's a huge need. Mental health is.
Right. And so Tina, thank you for sharing that. She said laughing a lot is a good cover up for depression.
It is. Look at all of the comedians that we've known. Robin Williams comes to mind. So many that is the mask. And I, being a mom of teens, I have one of my kiddos that he's always making people laugh. He's always got to be the joke and that. But then I really worry about him, because I think, he feels things deeply, and he's not willing to share that openly. Right. He covers it up.
Right. And I think that is it. So hello, Rhonda, and hello, everybody. Like I said, in the comments, we are talking about the effects of mental health on our youth tonight. And I just, like I said, it just rips my heart out, but hearing the teachers who are struggling, and because I think the teachers are struggling because they don't even, I think the mental health issues in the children, because it affects the behaviors, it affects so many things. It affects their academics, and maybe either they'll sleep.
Yeah.
And it could be foundation at home, because what are mom and dad doing, or do they have a solid foundation at home? Are they going home to safety,
right?
Or are they going home to a place that just feels so unsafe, and maybe school is their safety zone?
Exactly.
It could be the place that they eat. It could be the place that they feel peace.
Yep. And even have kids that they lose sleep because they're so focused on their environment at night, where they almost they're hyper vigilant about watching things, and so then they come to school the next day without a lot of sleep, because they were up all night wondering what the noises were, what things were in their food, or they didn't have a bed to sleep on, or things coming through the walls, or things like that. And so you think about kind of the terror that creates sometimes. And I think too, with especially teenagers, we see, when they withdraw and they go into the rooms and they sleep a lot, or, maybe they have changes in their eating habits. We see that as a normal phase that they're going through. And that's why I think it's so important to really be tuned in to noticing those changes when they prolonged, and also giving yourself some grace in that there's no perfect parent.
Right.
There is no perfect parent. I tell my kids all the time, guess what? I'm learning right along with you, and this is my first time doing this too. So each
And no
kid-
textbook's going to teach you.
no text.
I mean,
Yeah.
our kids, we have 6 kids, and they're so different.
They
I
are.
mean, it's their personalities, their, everything.
Yes.
It's just so the way they learn, everything is different.
What works with one kid talking to them doesn't work with their sibling, and sitting them down because they process things differently. Even what they're willing to share with you is completely different in their communication. So just finding that genuine, true connection with them and opening up those communication, I think is a huge thing.
Yeah, I do too. So as we're going through here, Roseanne said she sees kids taking their brothers and sisters and not getting their homework done. So they're taking care of their siblings. So mom and dad are going to work, but they are working when they get home. And so their homework's not getting done. And that's probably one of the things too. So their grades are sliding, but it's necessary for mom and dad to do that in order to make ends meet. So there's a lot of different things. And then Tina said some students are just trying to survive.
Yes, survival mode.
Holding their head above water, and that's all they can do.
Absolutely.
Are we seeing an increase in that, or is it pretty steady about where it's been, or I mean, you think?
I feel like it's a bit on the rise. I think families in general sometimes are struggling when they don't have those resources, and maybe mom and dad have their own mental health issues.
Right.
And so what feels normal to them, that's what they see as normal. And so they don't realize that that's inadequate coping, or like you said, they have an enormous amount of responsibility at home where they're just focused on that. The economy right now, parents
It's not going to get
having
better
to work,
right now.
So a lot of them, they need to be out working because that's how they provide for their family, which puts a lot of extra stress on the kids.
Right. And Roseanne also says that it's kids coming to school telling them that they have no food at home.
Food insecurity is a huge.
So, and what I've seen too is a lot of we have coach surfers, families that are homeless, that are trying to the kids are sleeping in their cars, they're sleeping from friend to friend, and they don't know where they're going to be
Right.
after they're picked up from school. So school seems to be their solid.
Yeah. And a bit of a distraction, but at the same time, why am I going to worry about doing homework when I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tonight?
Right. So, and then Rhonda says, do you think society or peers have effect also on mental health?
Oh, absolutely.
That's big.
Electronic devices. There's no break, for those kids that do have the cell phones. And that, I remember when I was growing up, you go home and you, if you had a rough day, you could stop it at the door the moment that you walked in the door. And now there's no off switch. There's a constant connection with each other, which can be a good thing, can be a very good thing. But at the same time, some of those influences that are around us, you don't get a break from that either. I'm a believer in forced digital detoxing. I do notice a difference in my kids when they're not happy about it, but I do notice a difference when they have that just stopped and they can just let loose, and they seem lighter, they seem happier, and kind of sad to me.
And some kids have to take on the responsibility that we would consider parental responsibility at a very, very young age. They are babysitting their siblings. They're running errands. They're doing the cooking. They're doing the cleaning. They're doing the things because either mom and dad can't or they're at work.
Right.
And like you said, it could be mental health on the parents' side as well. depression, anxiety. There's so many things going on, and the world is just so loud.
Well, in trying to find somebody that connects, that understands that amongst your peer base is difficult too. Somebody else doesn't have that level of responsibility that you have. It's difficult to find somebody that you really feel can understand that and empathize and that you can talk to and that you feel safe with. Because that can really vary amongst our youth too. In trying to really relate to each other.
Right. Well, and I think that's huge. And so, and Brenda says, school itself, there's a lot of bullying. Look at the suicide rate for that. Also look at the school shootings and they come back because of bullying. Mm-hmm. So, mental health is part of that. And actually, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day because, this morning, actually on our morning devotion, because it was like, people are trying, and people who have anxiety want other people who are miserable wants to have other people miserable with them. They want to, they're really trying to bring it in. So how do we talk to our teens about that? Because what the thing is that we are products of our environment.
Yes.
We are products of the people we hang around with.
Yes.
And sometimes, they're hanging around with the kids because they're the cool kids or because they're the only kids that'll talk to them. Maybe it's because of the way they dress or the way that they even smell at times because of there's a lot.
There is. And, you have even those kids that maybe are lonely at home. And so all these lonely kids get together and they kind of become a family unit of sorts. The problem with that sometimes is that it's not healthy coping, and it's not healthy communication or healthy thinking or positivity, and sometimes negativity can breed off of itself. So I think that's something
it kind of throws fuel on the fire for the kids that aren't that makes sense. That makes sense, and so Roseanne said that homeless families are happening more than we know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
A lot of the families you would not ever guess,
mm-hmm.
and they are making sure their kids are getting washed up at the gas station in the bathroom to come to school with clean clothes.
Yeah,
they are making sure, or maybe reach out to the school and say, "Hey,
mm-hmm.
could you make sure they have a shower?"
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and so I think that's a lot of not necessarily maybe mental health, but it is the economy. And this is another trend, but that does affect our mental health.
Yes.
Because there's not any place to go.
Right.
And it's like, so, and then Wessa has had seizures, but she said, do you have to deal with kids having seizures at school? She was wondering.
Oh, yeah. I have a pretty wide range of kids with medical issues, ranging from diabetes to seizures to congenital diseases, mental health. Oh my goodness, so many things on top of the broken bones and the things that the magic ice can fix.
Right.
So really, I mean, I've taken care of students that have had tube feedings. I've had, I do medication administration at school as well. So supporting the students in that way, as well as the ones that come in with the stomach aches and the headaches, which can also be a sign of depression, anxiety, especially with the younger kids. They don't understand why their stomach hurts.
Right.
And they don't always know to connect. Oh, well, I have a test today, for instance. My stomach hurts. And so trying to figure that out and getting to know the kids where you kind of know their tendencies and maybe those that didn't sleep that night before because for one reason or another,
right.
To the ones who maybe have food insecurity and they just need to eat something.
Right. Well, and that's another thing is that I know that the lack of nutrition causes us the lack of nutrition, the lack of sleep. Yeah. These kids got a whole lot of combinations of things coming at them all at once. And as adults, we have a hard time identifying that. I cannot imagine that they think that this is my life.
Right.
This is normal for me, when we can look at it and say, no, this is not normal.
Right.
But then if it is their normal, then how do you deal with that? When you know it's not feeling right, but their normal is so different than yours.
You know, I've come into contact with that a couple of times, and even with my own kids who will come home and say, you know, so and so was mean to me, so and so said this to me. And what I tried to help them to understand is what happens in our house is our normal. And if we were to go to so and so's house, being in their home is something that would not feel normal to us, just like them being in our home would not feel normal, good, bad, or otherwise, right? So,
but just because it's not our normal doesn't mean
Right.
that it's not okay.
Right. And just, I think, helping them to identify that they have choices. I've had lots of students that, really feel like this is all there is for me. No, you have the power. You have the power to be very intentional with your decisions and your choices. You have that power to break that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy, and it does not happen overnight, and it's a continual process of learning, but you have that power. And if you just need to be able to identify what isn't healthy and what isn't benefiting your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health.
That's huge. So Rhonda wants to know, she says, what about mental health being inherited?
Yeah,
Is it linked to genetics?
You know, there are some, when we assess, we do assess for mental health issues. And I do think that it can be genetics. I also think it goes back to that when you lived a certain way and you've been raised a certain way, that's your experience. Mm-hmm. And so the recognition that maybe there are issues isn't always there. So how am I going to know that I've got problems with depression if this is what I've lived?
Right, and this is the normal.
Mm-hmm. I hate to keep going back to this is the normal, but that's really, it's so hard to see when you've seen the color green your entire life, having somebody say, well, that's actually the color pink to you.
I remember when we were adopting and we were going through the process, and we were so frustrated because as we were having these parent meetings, and it sounded so silly, but the one social worker came up and said, hey, wait a minute. What you got to understand is they do not think the same way you think.
Right.
And like I said, I always go back to that stupid gold and white dress and the black and blue. Our brains do not function the same. And so there's no right or wrong.
No.
It's just that it is different.
It's different, and it's a different approach.
Right.
It's similar to, genetics being related to diabetes or alcoholism or, any number of things that can be passed along. It's that recognition and that addressing it, I think, in a loving, direct manner.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're right. So, Roseanne, now this is interesting. We see anger when their computers aren't working fast enough. Why do you think that is?
Instant gratification.
I was going to say,
immediate gratification. I remember when the internet first came out and you had to wait for the whole dial-up thing. And it's really though, or I tell my kids, did you know, you didn't know who was calling you. You had to answer the phone without even knowing.
It wasn't an ID.
Yeah. Dad was caller ID,
Yeah, right.
I really think this is the world they live in. It's an immediate gratification. And that might be a little bit into our mental health too, where, we're feeling a certain way and we just can't turn it off. It's not an immediate switching tracks as far as how we're feeling and our method of thinking. So I think we can get caught up in that a little bit. And when things aren't happening, it does. It creates frustration. And
But I remember, and like you said, going back and kind of aging myself. But I remember when my mom and dad bought this set of the encyclopedias, and we thought we had the world in our hands. We really did. We thought this huge box of encyclopedias. But man, we could go look it up, and we would know before they knew at school.
Yeah.
And now it's Siri every day, all the time. I mean, it's instant. And they know everything.
They do. I've had little toddlers who probably know how to use my phone better than I do. So
right.
and I think it's funny because I even find myself, again, aging myself, but we had to wait for things, but how quickly I become frustrated if I have to wait for something,
Right.
or if something's not working or the computer's not working. So it's amazing to me how quickly we acclimate to everything being right there at our fingertips.
Right. And so, and so we're going to be getting to comments, and so we're coming up on 30 minutes, and so at 30 minutes we are going to take just a couple minute break. But anyway, on this, we'll stay live, but we're going to take a couple minute break. But Kathy says there's a lot of bullying in the school, and I mean this is something that I have heard from a lot of different parents in a lot of different ways. But then I've also talked to some of the administrators in the school. And so I think too, are we defining bullying the same way? Once again, is, it's different, I think, because I think each parent defines bullying different, each household. And so the thing is that is there bullying in school? Absolutely. And without a doubt. But I also think that it would be, to me, it just seems like it would be really helpful. Do you guys do a course on bullying, or do you do some kind of with the younger kids, or do you guys, is there something the schools do for that?
Absolutely. Our guidance counselors are in our classrooms from a very young age and addressing, really respecting the individual person, and how different people are. And I really feel like there's a huge presence that is trying to address that. What's sensitive to me is not sensitive to somebody else. And I also think because everybody's experience isn't the same, it's really hard, again, to identify with somebody who lives a very different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I wake up and I have clean clothes and a full belly and a mom and a dad that are there to bring me everything that I would need, and it's really hard for me to relate to another classmate or peer who maybe does not have that same experience.
Mm-hmm.
And also, reflectively, that student, there's those feelings of almost envy,
Right.
I wish that were my experience. And so it's just, we all have such different experience. And I think the important thing is to really just stop and relate to each other
And just be kind.
and to be kind.
If we could do that and just be kind to one another. So, and so I think we're going to just take a minute here, and we're going to come back to some of your questions. And so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you all for coming on and jumping on tonight. Share the video, because we're going to continue to chat as we go. But if you could share the live feed, and because we want to try to reach as many people as we can. The reason that we do a live in 25 and the On the Porch Ministries, first of all, On the Porch Ministries, our goal is to help people have a closer walk with God, have a better life, and feel better about themselves. And so this Alive in 25, what we found is that there's a lot of people with mental health issues who you would never know have mental health issues,
Right.
but they just need to be heard.
Right.
And seen. And that is the one thing, is that some people just need to say, you matter.
Yeah.
I see you.
12 minutes. 12 minutes, I read, it takes somebody to connect with somebody and not feel so lonely. So if you have 12 minutes for somebody to be a friend and to be a genuine ear to listen, who doesn't have 12 minutes
Right.
in a day?
Right. Right. And so once again, thanks for joining us here at 11:25. We are here with Sonja Preuss. She's an RN and a school nurse and a mom of teens. And we are discussing tonight the effects of mental health on our youth. And so once again, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And so as we're going through and put in the comments, guys, help us out and put in your thoughts, your comments, or any kind of things that you're doing. So Brenda said some people look and speak strong, but they are most insecure on the inside. So we put on masks.
Absolutely.
We put on show.
Mm-hmm.
We put on so yeah, we separated. So thank you. I see it now. It's at 30. Thank you. But like I said, I think we put on masks and we put on just things sometimes that are just like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And sometimes we're outgoing and we're bubbly and we're the life of the party, and on the inside we are a total mess.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying. The kids, when Tina had mentioned the comment, the kids laugh and they want to be the class clown.
Yes.
And so sometimes the class clown really isn't the clown. It's just, like you said, Robin Williams.
Yep.
You go back to those comedians, you go back to those things. This is real life.
It is.
This is where it pierces you in the heart to make other people laugh because maybe of your own insecurities.
And it hides. And I think it hides. I think it takes the focus off of how we're feeling. And I do think, it makes us happy to make other people happy, but I think in some cases it's just a distraction. Just like people can be very brave behind a keyboard, behind a computer screen, because we don't have to look at that person in the face and say the things that we're saying online or through our phones. And again, I think it really comes down to that relating to one another. Would I say the same things to you through my phone that I would face to face? Seeing the emotion and seeing the hurt that it can create. I know there's been times in my own life where I feel very brave when I'm behind my phone. And so I think just really being mindful and intentional about how we use our words in every platform.
Right. And so I think too that there's a couple of things that people are saying on here too. So Marge says is she feels the sexually abused children, as sexually abused children. One of the things here was another thing is that 1 in 5 girls has experienced sexual violence. 1 in 5. That is absolutely crazy. That statistic is just absolutely, to me.
Absolutely. And the thing is I think the boys are right up there too. I don't think it's gender specific. I think, there's equal struggles amongst boys and girls as far as that goes. And, there's honestly probably more of a stigma with boys because they need to be tough and they, they're not super great communicators all of the time. And so they're taught that this isn't something we talk about, and it's already a problem with females as well.
Right.
But I think amongst males as well, maybe a little more so.
And I think that's it. And then Mary Cruz says it could also be a sign of abuse, which takes a toll on reporting things.
Yes.
And I mean, coming in and actually saying that I was sexually abused or I've been, and I think that sometimes, once again, the mental health is they're taking responsibility for what happened to them.
Right.
Or maybe they've been told.
And that shame that we wear, right? Because if I acknowledge it, if I tell somebody something, there must have been something that I did that created, there must have been something I did, attention that I drew or acted in a certain way that created this. And everybody makes their own choices. and the people who create that hurt and that trauma are solely responsible.
Absolutely.
For
And,
that.
and that's what Marge said. She said she feels that sexual abuse leads to mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hands down. And Tina said that it affected her, and Marge said her too. Marge said it took away a normal childhood.
Just had a question.
Yes.
Is it often that they don't necessarily come out and say I was sexually assaulted, but maybe they come in and they say my stomach hurts, I don't feel good, I don't want to go home. Like, like is there times where you have to call and report, hey, I think something might be happening to this kid?
Absolutely, more than I care to admit,
Right.
unfortunately. And a lot of times these kids don't recognize that it's something. I mean, I think they feel that it's something wrong, but I don't.
Saying it out loud makes it real.
Saying it out loud, but I don't think there's really that conscious realization. In this field, it's putting together a whole bunch of things. Unfortunately, there are red flags that we look for, and there are certain times where there are things happening with kids that my stomach turns because that little voice inside me says that there's something going on, and I'm a mandated reporter. I'm always very honest with my students in that anything that's said in my office stays with me so long as they are not being hurt, somebody else isn't being hurt, and letting them know that I'm there as a resource, as a help, with somebody in your corner versus getting them into trouble or getting somebody else into trouble. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's kind of depending on their age, maybe even not their age, but I'm telling you this in confidence because I trust you.
Mhm.
And then you have to you're mandated to turn that in. And that's hard.
It's hard because there's a trust factor there, and they come to you and they've told you this. And I mean, my explanation, rationale to them is that I care enough about them to want to bring extra people in to help them.
To protect them.
Right.
And that's something that I will not apologize for.
Right.
And that's why I'm here. That's my passion in life, is to be their voice if they need it.
Right. And so, a lot of this is now we're kind of going into this sexual so that they've been sexually abused, and Mary Preuss said she started at when she was 3 until she was 7. Miranda, thank you for identifying. That's why you powerful ladies are here healing, and you're able to talk about that. You're able to bring that to such a format as where we're at tonight, because they tried to take your soul from you, she said, and failed. Never give up. All love and healing. So thank you. That's amazing. And I think that is I think there's a lot of that and a lot of hurt with that never ends.
Right. And I think there was actually a discussion that I had maybe a year or so ago. There was a book, and it was titled But God Meant It for Good. So taking those circumstances where we've been traumatized and hurt in all senses, and taking that and regaining our own power back through God in relating to other people who feel weak, and being their strength and relating with them and being their person and connecting with them and turning it into power that you feel was once taken from you.
And so I think that's interesting. I'm going to get to your comments, you guys. We really are. But so one of the things, as you said, turning to God. So spiritually, it was interesting because we were having that conversation of where we grew up and what our contexts were, our experiences in connecting with God and connecting with the higher spirit and doing these things as we were growing up is very different. Mm-hmm. And so that is a level, and I know as a school nurse that it's a fine line that you walk there.
It is.
But here on the Porch Ministries, our thing is that what can we do as a community to help those kids find that peace that God can give them? What can we do as, as just parents in general? I mean, so, and I want to touch back on that, but the one thing is so what are some of the signs and symptoms? Let's go with that. What are you seeing for signs that you can tell that maybe your teen is experiencing either depression or some mental health issues?
Well, there would be, usually they look at a loss of interest in things that they've always liked doing, an abrupt change or a change that lasts for weeks to months, overeating, undereating, oversleeping, undersleeping, really distinct changes in personality, anger, nervousness, changes in grades. There can also be some physical signs. There are some kids that dabble in what's called cutting. I think just, and again, no parent is perfect, and there's a lot of guilt on both ends. I feel like on both, because you feel like you should recognize. I think just really taking the time to connect and to communicate and really, how was your day? Is there something that you, and making it a habit, every day of being intentional about connecting and communicating, so that you can recognize when, things might be a little bit off, and there's already that establishment of communication where there's that trust, where they feel, and being that safe place where your team can open up, where they're not going to feel judged or that they're in trouble.
That's a fine line. That is
is
such a fine line, because as parents, we want our kids to be the best that they can be. And so we want to have ground rules. We want to have, we want to have structure. Right. We want to have whatever. But then when our teen comes home, and one of the things on here that Tina had said is alcoholism. That's another thing that they turn to, is substance abuse.
Yeah, because it's coping.
Right.
It's self-soothing.
Self-medicating.
Yeah, that's huge, especially when you don't know how to find the words to talk about what's going on inside of you. All you want to do is quiet the feelings, and you just take off that pain, the edge of that pain. And so a lot of kids do turn to substance and alcohol and honestly even sexual activity, because they want to feel that connection with somebody, or they just want to quiet those feelings that they're struggling with.
And that's where this, and I'm glad that kind of brings us back to this, is feeling loved, feeling necessary, absolutely. Feeling that they matter, regardless of if it's taking away from their own integrity, their own whatever. But somebody looked at me, somebody saw me today. The 12 minutes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to that 12 minutes thing, whether it's abuse or not. Right. Somebody's seen me.
Yes.
Somebody noticed
me.
I matter today. And so that is one thing I think as a community that we can really work on, is showing people they matter, and seeing them, and even though they don't look the way we look, or they don't do the things that we do, or maybe they're not in our circle, maybe it's stepping aside and saying, hey, you know what? You really do matter. Do you want to join me for a soda? Do you want to, but I think that there's so many things that we can do. And, as a Christian, I want to go out and I want to spread kindness and love and happiness. But then we see all of these issues. And it's those kids that are in those margins that don't feel seen, that they don't feel heard, that they don't feel important or connected. And those are the things that we can do to help them find, like we made up the little mirrors and we'll be handing them out. I've just kind of been delayed a little bit in that, but And that's what it says is I love myself. When you can look in the mirror and truly look in the mirror and say, good morning, cutie. I love you. Good morning, but then asking God instead of having God do, what can I do for you today, God?
Right.
Who can I see today?
And sometimes I think that's the best way to mend our own hurts is to give what we never received in a genuine manner. Helps us heal those parts in us when we're able to give that to somebody else. And at the basis, we're all human, right? So my circumstance is different than somebody else. And I don't know how many times I've connected with somebody who's I perceive as being completely different than me.
Right.
But at the basis, we're all human. We've all struggled with feeling at some point in our lives unloved or disappointed or hurt. Any number of things where we can really truly connect, and just walking it out. What better way to show that we are Christians than to put that into action? My one goal that I always have, that I try, and I fail every day, but I do try, is that somebody can tell that I'm a Christian without asking me that. In the way that we love each other and in what we give to each other, and we're there for each other.
And the one thing that I found, and I know we've had this conversation in the past, is the language that we use. So some people are saying, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. So yeah, your spirit inside you connects with the Spirit of God. It connects with the higher power, the higher spirit. And I think that to show kindness, compassion, and love, like you said, live love out loud.
Yes.
That is what we need to do. We need to live kindness out loud. We need to
Absolutely.
live all of those things out loud. I love that 12-minute thing. I'm going to be using that because
12 minutes.
12 minutes, but really 12 minutes of, we were talking about 30 minutes of self-care and self-love a day.
Mhm.
But what if we did 12 minutes of self-loving, self-care? That's really what we need.
Yeah.
Is I'm not saying stand in the mirror for 12 minutes and, hey, beautiful, you're great, whatever.
Right.
But at the same time, you can show yourself that by washing your face, doing your hair, getting dressed, and just taking care of yourself in a way that presents, and then holding your head high, shoulders back, and say, "This is a new day.
Right.
I can do this. I've got this." But then, if you have somebody, the kids coming to school, the kids coming in, or people coming into work, if you have somebody positive there saying, "Hey, you look gorgeous today," or "Hi, how was your evening?" Or whatever, just simple little things.
I'm sometimes known as Nurse Ratchet. I try really hard to keep them in class, which does not always go over very well with my demographic that I work with. But here's my thing, is I care enough about you to care about your education, to care that you're here at school, to care that you're getting the 2 meals a day that we can provide. I am in your corner. And do I connect with every student? Absolutely not. But there are those ones that stand in my mind that I can remember having heart-to-hearts that, I grew up like you. I was there, and I remember that moment in time where I said I was going to be a different parent. I was going to break the mold, and I was going to do better. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, and I'm always learning. My kids will tell you how imperfect of a parent I am.
Aren't we all?
But just really, that when you know better, you do better.
Right.
You have to stop and you have to say, do I want to keep this? Do I want to keep the hurt rolling, or do I want to stop it and try to learn better and try to learn how to connect with people and to affect somebody else? And what we get back when we are there for other people, I think, is more of a blessing than what we've provided to them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there is that lifts us up so much.
Absolutely.
And we all have those circumstances that we have helped somebody and we didn't even mean to.
Right.
I mean, and it's that spontaneous thing sometimes that are just like, woo,
yes.
And I know Veronica was talking last week when we were talking about our self-worth. She talked about a young man who came up to her at Walmart after she got off work and, I love your earrings. Oh, your eyes are beautiful. And then a while later said, oh, can I give you a hug? And it just lifted her up, but it also lifted him up. And so it was a, you know, we need to do that for one another. We need to be there for one another because you do not know what somebody else is going through.
Absolutely.
You do not know what they woke up to in the morning, or if they woke up, or if they were up all night.
Yeah.
You know, with anxiety and sleep is sometimes very hard to find. And so I want to get to part of your things. Miracruz said bullying is so much easier nowadays with the use of technology. All it takes is a post to ruin somebody's name.
Yeah.
That is something that is new from when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Because the only thing we did was write on paper and throw it across the room, and then hopefully somebody found it. But you know, but it is so much easier.
It is.
But like you said, also when you're behind the screen, it is so much easier.
It is. You can be 10 foot tall behind that screen. And it's different when you're looking at somebody's face as you're saying those things.
And looking into their eyes.
Yes.
And so the one thing is, and so we've been sharing this too, is first of all, what's your blessing today? What is your blessing? So I'm going to ask you, what is your blessing today?
My blessing is being here and sharing. I love talking about my job. I love my kids. And so just being here and trying to help anybody.
That is awesome. In the comments, I want you guys to put what your blessing is for today. And so, what's your blessing? That's great. That's awesome.
I'm the presence of you, cutie.
Right, you just elevated me.
Yeah. See how that works? It happens like that.
All right.
Well, I woke up today.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That is awesome.
Oh.
And for me,
On the right side of the dirt.
on the right side of the dirt. Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, I think my blessing is that we have an opportunity to reach so many people in such a unique way. And every time I get up and I'm always stressing about, oh, how's this going to go, whatever. But then I'm thinking, we can put this little camera on. We can have all of these people on. We can have this conversation. And we have people across the country, across the world, joining in on our conversation about mental health and about how we can connect in different ways, be it spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. And you know, I know that for me, like I said, the bullying in the school may have changed because it's easier behind the technology. But and Roseanne said, yes, there's a lot of bullying, and we're trying really hard to stay ahead of it. That they have a hotline for kids to report in her school.
Yep.
Do you guys have that?
The county has resources that they put up.
Okay, that's awesome.
That we try to make really visible. I know that staff that are in schools really, really try. I don't think anybody realizes how much heart and soul that our teachers, our guidance counselors, and our administrators put into our kids. There's, that saying, some kids come to school to be loved. And I couldn't tell you the number of wonderful, beautiful people that I work with on a daily basis that take those kids home with them. And it doesn't stop when we walk out those doors. And when summer comes, we worry about them. And spring breaks and snow days. And they really, truly do. They put everything they have into making that connection. And I don't think they get enough credit for that.
No, I don't think they do either. And I think that there is a whole lot of things that we can do. But like I said, being as passionate as you are about this, you're in the right profession and right place.
So Pastor Deb has a lot of teachers that follow her. And I just wondered, because obviously you carry a lot of hurt behind, only being able to do so much for the kids. What do you do to cope with your hurt?
Oh, I think connecting with each other is huge. I can be a Christian and I can struggle with my own mental health. I can struggle with depression. I can struggle with anxiety. So really making sure that we're doing self-care as well. Leaning on those things that bring us strength and help us to balance it out is really, really important. Because you can very easily feel hopeless. You can easily feel like you didn't do enough, you didn't see enough. But just constantly, resetting and remembering each morning that it's a new day. Looking for those positives in the day. I have littles that come in, and I have one that I don't get to see every day, but he makes it a point to come in because he needs to give me my hugs. And on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I get extras to get me through the weekend because some things like that, just you feel like you connect. So can help fill
we're
you
like
up.
really grasping onto the positive
Yeah.
to get through the negative.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
do they have something in, that's a really good question, because do they have something in place, like when something happens at school that's dramatic, somebody, a kid gets in an accident, and is there a place for the teachers to debrief and to just,
Yeah.
I mean, do they have a place for the staff and the administration to just let go? I mean,
Yeah.
because you have to hold it together for the kids,
You do. And
but that takes a
You
toll on
have-
their mental health.
well, and we've had discussions because there, there's concerns there, and we're reminded by, our own counselors that are in, and we sometimes will bring outside counselors from other schools depending upon what the circumstance is. But we're reminded that, you need to take care of you. You need to identify what you're feeling and work through it. So it's really a village for each other, a village to raise these kids, and just doing the absolute best that we can.
Well, and I think it's a day-to-day.
It is.
I have one more question. I was just thinking, so you have all these kids at school, and then you go home to 3 more kids, teenage kids. 4.
3 teens.
And
3 teens.
Oh, okay.
Teenagers.
4 kids. So when you said, like self-love is how you, cope and reset. When do you find comfort for that? Because I have 1 kid and I can barely manage 30 minutes a day. So
Some days it's going home and being able to hug my own kid.
right. And you have to have a brave face for them, right? So.
You do, but at the same time, I think it was Mother Teresa that said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. So my thing is going home and trying to connect with my kids so that they go out and love on other people, and that they spread that. And I think I have phenomenal kids. I'm a little biased, but just really looking at that and helping them to understand. Like I said, in our little fishbowl, this is what we experience, but not everybody experiences that. So it's important to just love people where they are and to meet them where they are.
It is so hard sometimes.
It is.
Without judgment, without biases, because meeting them where they are might look so different from where you are. And it is okay that they are different. It is okay that they live things different. Their normal is not your normal. And like I said, this is something that just keeps going on and on and on. And so I think Wessa has been in a wheelchair all of her life. And she said, was there any kids in wheelchairs where your nurse at?
Oh, absolutely. I have one right now. 2 years ago, I had 4 students that were in wheelchairs. Like I said, I've done tube feedings with students. I have some kids with seizures, some with diabetes. Just all sorts of things that you wouldn't even imagine that kids have to struggle with. that come to school, and we try to just make them feel as included as possible. So yeah,
And
all
it's
the time.
And it's beautiful. Now, Tina, I am not missing your comment. And she said she was told by the church growing up that she was going to go to hell. We are going to be touching on that walk of faith on our Thursday, probably our Thursday night session, which I have not announced yet, but that is something that I really do want to talk about, because we have been hurt by faith. The one thing that is pulling us through, that peace, that love, that kindness, or whatever. But so many people have been hurt by the church, by those people who are supposed to be the religious leaders, the people that are supposed to be the ones that are leading them and to God. And so it is a topic that I do want to share, because that's some of our context in the back, but it also really affects our mental health.
It does.
And so where we're at in our lives and where you're at today really shows how strong you are in your walk in your life. And so when I say I'm proud of you, Tina, I'm proud of you. I really am. I mean, and for you to be as brave as all of these ladies and all of these people are tonight, sharing their stories and sharing their hurts and sharing some of the things that they have done. So we're going to be wrapping this up, but Miranda said, let's start a 12-minute movement. Let's go up
Love that.
hug a stranger for 12 minutes.
11.5 more minutes. Just go with it.
Just all right, 12 minutes is a long.
But it's what you pack into.
You gotta keep bringing.
But go and spend 12 minutes tonight with somebody that you want to feel loved. And I think that really is a great way to kind of end our time together. First of all, Marge was blessed because she had a day off. So that was her blessing for today.
She deserves it.
And like I said, yeah, so all of us come together from very different places, from different backgrounds. So tonight, I do want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you for being here and your time. And so, like I said, as we go on tonight, continue to put in the comments. If you have things, we'll come back to them. If you have questions for Sonja, put them in the comments. I will make sure she gets all of them.
Yes.
And we will get back to you. And this might be something that we want to revisit again.
I'd love
Because
to.
I think that this is something that is bigger than what we understand at times.
Absolutely. I think it's like a glacier. We only see the tip, and there's so much below the surface that people struggle with, and also our youth and teens, everybody.
And even so the one extra thing too is as the school nurse, you're not only dealing with the kids, but you're also helping the parents, not only identifying that their kids may need help, but then I'm sure that you also identify that the parents need extra resources.
Absolutely.
And so there's a whole lot of this packed in. And so once again, thank you for being here. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I want you to know that you are important, that you are necessary and loved right where you are and for who you are. And I want to thank you for being here tonight. God bless and have a great night, everyone. Sleep well. Love you all.
Thank you.